Welcome back everyone to Horizon Site Pro. Today we're going to talk about scheduling. There's a couple ways you can go around this. You can start with your templates area, or you can start with a project. The templates are great because they allow you to create a standard schedule. So if you do a lot of kitchen renovations, for example, you can create a standard kitchen schedule in your templates area, and every time you start a kitchen renovation project, you can just import that schedule. Now when you import that schedule, if there's a few variations that are different than normal, you can edit the schedule once it's in the project, so it's not locked in. If you don't want to start with the templates, you can just jump right into your project, create your project. Say it was a kitchen renovation, you could build your schedule out in the project. If it turns out you like that schedule, you want to set as a template, there is an option within there. You just hit a little button, it saves it as a template, it'll save it back into the templates area, and then you'll be able to use it in the future. So creating templates saves you hundreds of hours in a click of a button down the road, because you don't have to recreate projects or recreate the templates within project every single time. We're going to start in the templates area. You can see how the functionality in there works. We're then going to import it into a project, and you can see how it works within there. So we'll hit templates, go down to schedules. You can see we have them created here already. If you had more created, they'll all be lined up, and you can select them and edit them at any time. But we're going to go up create schedule template. We'll enter our name. Do a basement development. Click the green button, create schedule template. So here's the name. We can edit that at any point. We have our working days here. This will automatically adjust as you build out your schedule. It stays at 5 for now. We can put 25. We just want a little bit more room. See, it adds a few extra days here. Phases we will deal with later. And here we have the plus sign, and we can start adding items. So our first item is going to be the permit. Start on day 1. We can assign users. So if you have a favorite plumber, for instance, and you want to keep them in your every template schedule, so every time you import that schedule into a project, he's already assigned to the project. You can do that. Same with any trade. So after you import a schedule into a project, you don't have to re-tag your trades to that. They're already come with the schedule. And if on a particular project your plumber can't work on that, you can always edit that trade out of that schedule and put in your alternate plumber. So it's completely editable after it's in a project, but just so you know, you have the functionality to add trades right from the start. So when you do import a schedule, it's completely ready to go. Everybody's already tagged in it. We're going to leave this blank for now, and we'll deal with assigning some users later. You can see how that works. Job color, we're going to put red. This just makes things easier to see in the schedule if everything's color coded, especially when you have a lot of items. And we're going to put 10 working days for this permit. This automatically adjusts to weekends and holidays so that the work days are actually landing only on work days, so it keeps your schedule accurate. Create new task. Now we can add our next item. This plus sign next to the permit on this line will create a sub item of the permit. It won't be completely independent. It ties things a little bit closer together, but what you should be aware of is if you do ever delete your permit, it will delete all the sub items with it. If you click this plus sign up at the top, it creates a completely independent item, and it won't get deleted if you ever delete the other items. So we're going to call this demolition our next step. We can leave this day 1. We can move stuff around afterwards. Job color, we're going to put orange. And we're going to say 5 days. Now we can drag and move this anywhere we want to. Linking items together, you hover over the item, a little circle pops up, click and hold, and drag down. You can have end to end like that. We'll line them up. We can move them afterwards. If we want to break that link, you can double click the link, click OK, and it's gone. You can go end to start. It will move things over. You can also move it afterwards. Again, if you want to break the link, you can do that. You can also have start to start. There's many different ways you can link stuff together. It just allows you to function a little bit easier if you have a unique situation. Traditionally, you'll have an end to start link, but it's still very common to have an end to end or a start to start link if some things run concurrently. Now if you hover over an item, you'll see this little triangle pop up. What that is a meter where you can gauge how far along you are in the item. So it's not something you have to use, but if you want to track your progress, say you've done 2 days worth of work, you can put it there, or you think you're about 50% through, you can put it there. Just a little way you can track how far you're going along in the item, but you can leave it at the start and you don't have to use it all if you don't want to. If you ever want to edit your item, hover over it, double click, it'll pop the screen back up. You can change the color, work days, anything you need. You can even delete the item from within there as well. Now with sub items, just because we have this linked doesn't mean demolition is now a sub item of permit. That is different. You'd have to click on this plus sign and it would create an actual sub item and it would show up slightly differently. We'll just put test and you can see how that looks. Now you can see how this is indented from the permit as it is actually sub item. So if we deleted the permit item, it would delete the test with it, but it would not delete the demolition item. We're just going to get rid of that for now. And we're going to go back to the top, hit the plus, and we'll add our next item. So framing is next. We're going to assign yellow to it, and we're going to say 3 days. Create that item. Now again, we can link this start to start if we wanted to. You can break the link. You can have multiple items linked together in the same way. So this, right now, the permit is linked end to start on the demolition. We can also link it end to start on the framing. And we will click that. And there we go. Get that deleted. We'll move that over. And we're going to link this end to start. Now the reason you want to link items together is it keeps your schedule accurate. So if there was a delay with the permit and we needed to add, say, 1 extra day to that, all we do is move that over and it automatically pushes everything else after it. Draw it back and it brings everything back. When you move something, it will move everything after that item, including that item, but it will not move things before. So if I move demolition over, it will not draw the permit over. It assumes that you've already completed the items before, and so it's not going to mess with that schedule. It's going to leave things as it is. But every time I move this around, everything after it will move. So if I had 100 items lined up after framing, all linked together, and my demolition got moved over, automatically it moves everything. And so there's no spending hours redoing a schedule. Your entire schedule, however many items, 2 seconds, it's updated. And your trades can all see it. So everybody's kept in the loop. So here we are. We have our 3 items all linked together. Now we're going to go back out and import this into a schedule in a project. What you notice is you don't have to save this. It saves automatically. If you see here on the side, when I move this, the lettering will bold up. And that means it's being saved. As soon as it's unbolds, that means it's saved. And that's how it saves it within a template. It saves differently once in your project, and we'll go over that. And the other option you can be aware of is you can move stuff up and down the list. So if I click and hold framing, I can move it up above demolition, and you can see over here the framing jumped up above it. So we're going to grab that and bring it back down underneath. So that's as far as we're going to go in the templates. So I'm going to back out of here. You can see here it is, basement development, 3 items, everything is saved automatically. We're going to go over to our Doe renovation. And you can see we're already in the schedule area. So we'll go through a few of the options here. So the first here is the unlock schedule. Now before you can edit anything, you have to unlock the schedule. And that's why after you've created a schedule, if you come in here to view it, you don't accidentally bump something or drag something and wreck what you've done. You have to actually manually unlock it. And now you can edit what you have. So we've got locked for now. You can bring your schedule online or offline. So this is if you've created a schedule but you don't want your trades to see it yet. You can bring it offline. Click that, bring schedule online. Bring schedule back offline. When it's offline, only internal users can see it. And then we have phases here, so we'll get into how phases work. We'll create a couple as a test. Create an initial and a rough-ins. Save those changes. Now if we want to bring in our template schedule that we created before, this is where you do it. We'll select from here, basement development, click add tasks. Do we want to add? Yes we do. And it brings it in. Now after you've done a project, if you like what you've created in your project and you want to save it back as a template, this is how you do it. Just this little button right here, save schedule as template. Give it a name, create template, and it will save it back into your templates area, your schedules. Next over here is show non-working days. You can toggle that. And what that'll do is it will automatically take out your weekends and holidays. If you don't want to see that, if you want to see the full calendar, just have it show in blue here. And then we'll get into the other views here in a moment. So we're going to unlock the schedule so we can edit. We're just going to bring this over, get this lined up, and automatically adjust everything out properly. This is a good view of how the weekends and holidays work. So your demolition is a 5-day item, but right now it's spanning 7 days because it's jumping over the 2 weekend days. And again, you can set your weekend days or whatever days you're not working in your project area. When you're creating the project, you can go also back and edit it later. You say you don't work Tuesday and Wednesday, but you work all the other days, it will adjust for that if you set it. December 25th here is obviously Christmas, so it's adjusted and jumped right over the 25th. So even though there's a day between these two, if we move demolition over, you can see that it now jumps over that next weekend. We'll move it over again, and you can see they're actually next to each other, but they're jumping over your weekends and your holiday days. That's why there's a gap right here. So it keeps your schedule very accurate. So we'll go into the calendar view now. Now the Gantt chart will have the most functionality. You can do the most with it. But if you want to see the calendar view, it's just easier working with that. You can have it laid out here for you. You can view month, week, day. You can add a new task here. You can double click, edit. Next view is a list view. So you can have it laid out and have all your items. A little bit easier to see everything in one spot. You can still edit your tasks. You can have a date range if you want to filter. You can add your new task here. You can also go to an agenda view and it lays it out a little bit differently. You can go in here and have your option to edit that task. So lots of options on views, how data is shared, but we're going to go back to Gantt chart as it does have the most functionality. So now we're going to play with some phases here and show you how that works. So let's add our next item. And here, because we created the phases, remember at the entrance to this area, and I'll show you that again. To create a phase, you just have to go to toggle phases. You can add whatever you need here. But we will add an item. We're going to add plumbing rough-in. So we'll have our actual dates, because again now we're in an actual schedule and not just a template anymore. We have a reminder. So 7 days before this task comes up, anybody tagged to it will get a reminder. You can set this to whatever many days you want. Default is 7. We're going to have our color here. We'll assign it green. We're going to have 3 working days for our rough-in phase. So we created the initial and the rough-in phases. Select rough-in, create new task. So here's our plumbing rough-in. And you can see it says Ruffins beside it, as that is the phase it is assigned to. We're going to move that over. We're going to link them together. We can go back if we want to edit the permit to be the initial phase, update the task, and here it is, and listed as an initial. So you can have anything listed in any phase if you want to group stuff together. And so if you go into toggle phases, you can change what's viewable. So first, just to make sure, I'm going to lock the schedule. It's asking me if I want to save these changes. Save everything I did. I'll go and toggle the phases. You can see what's visible. Everything's visible right now. I'm going to take this off and select just Ruffins, save changes. And you can see our plumbing roughin is the only thing that shows up. If you had your electrical Ruffins put in here and had them phased the same way, both of those would show up. And so it allows you to focus in on just a couple items in a particular phase. If we go back into the phases, we can toggle everything back to visible, and the whole schedule will then show up again. And we can move stuff around here. Once we unlock the schedule, then we can move it around. We go back in. We can assign people to it. So just some fake users, but we assign them. You can see it shows up here who's assigned. And that's how the Gantt chart works. That's how the scheduling works. So it's very functionable. Makes things very easy. It sends out notifications when you've created a schedule, as well as your reminder. However many days before you have that item, you have your reminder. Keeps everybody in the loop. So it's a great tool. There's a lot to it, but hopefully this gives you a good starting point. Thanks again, Horizon Site Pro.